All right, I'm Nick Nowaczyk, Vice President of Operations with Reveel. I've been with Reveel for just over 10 years now, and I'm here to tell you a bit about my path toward uh, ending up at Reveel and spending this past decade with them. Um, I started out my career in inside sales with FedEx. I was recruited right out of college to come work for a Fortune 100 company, had great benefits, seemed like a really great opportunity in a very stable industry to build my career. And I was really lucky to get some great management, great training. I was very quickly promoted to a field sales position based out of the San Diego market, which was just a beautiful place to be able to do outside sales, whether it was with FedEx or anybody else. And during my time there, and given my background, my major in college was business economics. So I kind of look at everything through an economics lens and a very logical lens. And one of the things that I first did when I started selling for FedEx was I really wanted to understand the numbers. I wanted to understand from a dollar perspective, where were we competitive with UPS? Where were we not competitive? So that I could leverage that in my sales conversations. One of the things that I quickly realized at a young age was that our list rates from FedEx mirrored and matched to the penny what UPS was charging their customers at the time. This is going back to 2006. Some things have changed slightly since then, but at that time, it was to the penny the same cost to send a 1 pound ground package to, Los Angeles from Phoenix, for instance. And I just started thinking to myself, gosh, how is it possible that two companies that have uniquely different cost structures and profit margins, how can they possibly justify charging exactly the same amount for a service? That was just something that came to my mind early on, and it kind of resurfaced later on as I encountered Reveel. So I moved on to San Diego. I started working with larger customers and working with them face to face rather than over the phone. And I was blessed to have one of my customers be the University of San Diego. The University of San Diego, you would think, is an educational institution. They don't ship very much, but they have a bookstore. They have all kinds of international marketing material that they send to prospective students abroad. They actually do a fair amount of shipping, and it's a fairly large line item for them. I had a very, very good relationship with my contact there. And so when I found out one day, I got an email from Chad, who's one of the founding partners of Reveel, saying that he was representing the University of San Diego in a request for proposal, and that he was going to be asking me for better pricing. And not only that he was asking for better pricing, but that he'd already secured much better pricing from UPS. And he put me instantly into a competitive situation that I, as a FedEx rep, and as a FedEx rep with a great relationship with his customer, never saw coming. And so I called my customer and I just said, hey, if you needed better pricing, you could have come to me. I can help you out with that. And she said, you know what, this is really above my head. The president of the university hired Chad to help us out with this line item, and you're going to have to work with Chad. So I said, okay, great. I'm going to take a closer look at what it is that Chad is asking for here and see if I can help him. And Chad had a very detailed request. It hit on every single discount across every service, every zone. It was very detailed. And I took such a deep dive into it. And I looked at it and just thought to myself, gosh, I have never seen pricing approved like this for any of my customers. If I ask my pricing department to match this, it's going to be a waste of my time because they're just going to tell me no. And so I called up Chad and I said, hey man, I took a look at what you're asking for here. Quite frankly, I've never seen anything like this approved. Like, I don't know what you want me to do. And he was really confident in his response. And he said, Nick, I can totally understand why you're saying that right now. I've heard it a number of times, but you got to help me out here. Just do me a favor and submit the request to your pricing people, and let's just see what they say. And I said, all right, I'll go ahead and waste my time. At the time, FedEx had a very detailed web platform that the salesperson had to go into and give all kinds of details to try and get pricing to give them what we were asking for. And so I did that. And about a week later, I was totally floored when my analyst came back to me and said, all right, everything you asked for is good. You can go ahead and send this to your customer. And I was amazed. I mean, I just couldn't believe it was that easy to get what Chad was asking for. And what was the consequence of that? I retained my customer. They didn't move to UPS, but I diminished a significant amount of margin on a customer that was really good for me as a salesperson. And FedEx's sales comp structure is such that they rate you on net revenue produced in your territory. Well, a function of net revenue is what kind of deal am I offering to my customer? If I'm giving all of my customers the best deal, then my net revenue is lower than it would be if I didn't give them the best. So I'm incentivized as a salesperson to overcharge my customers. If I overcharge all of my customers, I have a better chance of meeting my goal at the end of the quarter. So in that case, my interests were in direct conflict with the financial well-being of my customer, which is not something that sat well with me as a salesperson. On a side note, I come from a family where my father was a mechanical engineer. I was an econ major, very like risk-averse person. So when you're talking about like a sales role and a sales structure, it's just not something that aligns with me. I felt kind of dirty even being a salesperson. So I always positioned myself with my customers as a consultant. I always wanted to do what was in the best interest of my customer, whether that meant I made less money or not. And I probably hindered my earning ability because of that. So anyways, I kept University of San Diego, lower margin. I had to go find that business somewhere else to replace it, which made my job hard. This happened 2 or 3 more times with Chad. And on other accounts, he kept inviting me into these RFPs and just hammering me on price and diminishing margin, until one day he called me up and he said, hey, Nick, I've got this new customer I wanted to talk to you about. And I was hoping you'd come have coffee with me in downtown San Diego. Would you do that? I said, well, Chad, I don't drink coffee. And second of all, if I did drink coffee, I wouldn't be meeting you for coffee, because the only thing that happens when I meet with you is that I lose money. And so he thought that was kind of funny. And he said, you know what, Nick, it's actually a UPS customer. I'm considering moving them over to FedEx. Would you meet with me then, since it's new revenue for you? I said, okay, let's go ahead and meet. And I showed up to the Starbucks, and he looks at me and says, by the way, there's no customer. I just wanted you to come meet with me. And really what I wanted to talk to you about was coming to work for me and my business partner. And I've heard some really great things about you from your customers. And I really appreciate the way that you communicated with me through the process. And I'd love to, talk to you about what it would take for you to come join us. But before I do, I wanted to ask you a couple questions. When you, Nick, were deciding in your head that pricing would or would not accept the request that I had you make for University of San Diego, what were you basing that off of? Like, why did you come to that determination that there was no way they were going to approve it? And I said, well, Chad, I communicate really well with my analysts. I'm very in tune with what my customers are getting across the board, and I just haven't seen anything like that. He says, all right, Nick, fair enough. How many customers do you have? About 130, give or take. Okay, that's great, Nick. How many customers do you have that 130 have similar needs to the University of San Diego? Ship the same types of packages, have to get there the same amount of time, going, relatively the same amount of distance. And I said, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3. And then I'll never forget, he paused and he looked at me, and I've never felt dumber in my life, or more dumb, however you want to say it. And he said, so Nick, you're telling me that you were basing what a $56 billion company in FedEx would approve on pricing based off of 2 benchmarks. And I said, yeah, when you say it that way, that seems kind of dumb. I see what you're saying. He said, well, Nick, the reason why I was able to get those rates for USD is because I have a database of thousands of these contracts and data on lots of customers. And I was able to pick apart and identify other instances where FedEx has offered this kind of pricing to its customers. He said, FedEx lets you see what all of its customers are getting throughout the country, right? He said, no, I'm only able to see what's in my territory. I said, well, I had you at a disadvantage. So that's what we're based off of. And, Nick, our customers sign up with us because we not only get them these great rates, but the only way we get paid is if we save them money. So if we sign up with a customer and we go through this process and we can't help them, or we don't produce anything, we don't make any money. And I looked at him and I said, okay, so what you're telling me is that my incentive working for you is to save my customers as much money as I possibly can. Yes. Well, that sounds a lot better than what I'm doing right now, because I'm incentivized to overcharge all of my customers as much as I can. And I don't really feel good about that. So that was kind of the nail in the coffin for me when it came to making a big jump and leaving a Fortune 100 company to joining an entrepreneurial organization in a small, just a small company in general. It was a hard thing to leave, but I just felt much better about what it was that I was doing for my customers. And I haven't looked back in 10 years.